Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly. We're back with another Casting Angles with Mac Brown. How you doing, Mac?
I'm doing great, Marvin. How are you?
As always, I'm just trying to stay out of trouble. And, it's kind of interesting. We're in May now, but you've probably been having some March weather in your neck of the woods.
We've had some March weather and it's a little bit cold up here and a lot of wind, a whole lot of wind, like 40-mile-an-hour wind gust last night and today as well all day.
Yeah, so what are you seeing on the water?
We saw a lot of caddis this evening and we saw a lot of blue wings. We saw some Hendrickson still, and it was good, really complex hatch. But Jason was here at about 3 today, and so we got to go down and play around on the creek coming out of the national park, and a lot of good hatches going on today.
Got it. And we were talking about what we wanted to talk about, and we thought we would talk today about kind of mentorship and personal growth.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great topic. Just because I was kind of explaining to Jason that today, just what that meant, to me when I moved here in my early 20s, having somebody like Jim Estes in my life. And that's who I fished and camped a lot with up in the park. And he just really opened my eyes up to how inept I was, how inept, because he'd say, well, Marvin, you go ahead and fish this pool first. And when you do that, you think, well, I've got the reins. And you got the magic fly and the pixel dust and the magic rod. And you throw and throw and throw. And then he steps in and catches 8 in a row. Then you realize, well, you don't know anything at all.
Yeah.
So mentorship is huge. Without that, I don't think there's any way to get the growth that we really desire.
Yeah, but before we get there, we really ought to talk about, being intellectually curious, right? Because if you aren't curious and you don't want to get better, all the mentorship in the world isn't going to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
That's right. Having that curiosity, I think, is the biggest thing, even in casting, that we talk about a lot on the road with the classes. Without being curious, and you're just not curious about how things work, then probably chances are you're kind of in a stagnation mode. And so I think curiosity is the big spice, to this whole fly fishing game.
Yeah.
And by being curious, it's not the fish that we catch. It's the fish that we didn't catch that ought to make you curious, like, why didn't you catch it? And if you're not thinking that way, then I think we're kind of in the stagnation mode,
Yeah. And I don't think we have to get crazy about it. I mean, I think if it's just one of those things, if you just want to be better every time you go out, right? And, that just makes you open to learning things. And then, coming back to mentorship, I think when you have that posture as a mentee, it makes mentors want to be more generous.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. And you see that a lot with different relationships of when I was the mentee and versus, being the mentor. It's different roles, but you understand how it works because you went through it yourself,
Yeah.
I think that helps a ton.
Yeah, it's interesting too, right? Because I know you've got people in your life now that are really peers, but you were a mentee. They were your mentor. Like, I know you teach classes with Gary Borger, and I mean, he knew you when you were a kid, which, I'm sure your kids can't believe you were ever a kid, but it did happen once, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat how that works. And it's just staying curious, I think, is the key to this whole growth process. And I don't think, just from talking with a lot of folks on the road, not everybody's in a growth pattern, Like a lot of people here, whether it's like baking brownies or something in the kitchen with this, curiosity about how things work and the way things work. It's like the more you know, then the more you realize that you don't know. And it's like, if that doesn't make you curious, then I don't know what else will.
Yeah. And then I guess, we really talk about like where to find mentors, right? Like I know when I first was in fly fishing, I picked a particular club in Charlotte because I knew they had better anglers in it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how I think that's a tough one. Like where I live is in a rural mountain community. You know what I mean? I just look at like Jim. Jim was my mentor really when I moved here, and he helped me immensely with a lot of the things that we teach today. So we don't really have clubs and things here in Bryson, but expand on that a little bit for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a club, then I think about, I really believe that local fly shops are great resources, right? And that's a place to find mentors. And I know one of the things that I did when I first started fly fishing, one, I did guided trips because I wanted to learn. But
Right.
then, you can't do that forever. And one of the things I would do is I would literally fish with Don Yeager at Jesse Brown's, and I would say, "Look, let's pretend you're not even here, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do and how I want to fish this piece of water, and then you tell me what I'm doing wrong."
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that'd be a good recipe for
yeah,
growth.
yeah, and then I think too, you gotta kind of be honest with yourself. But I mean, the great thing is, I mean, and I know you know this from the casting program, is that there's all this great reach with technology, right? And, all these people all over the world in the casting world, for example, or fly fishing in general, that you can find that are phenomenal resources if you're inquisitive and want to reach out. And, I always say fly fishing people are some of the most generous people I know on the planet. And, I don't think I've ever reached out to anyone for help or with a question where they told me to go away, right?
That's right. I think they're all really wanting to help people, just because it is a lot of things that seem simple can be more complex, and they realize they've been through it already, and they want to share that and help people get through it quicker.
But I also think too, right? The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know very much. And also you realize that, even the teacher learns something every time he teaches.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
I
uh,
think I think that happens in fishing too.
yeah. So, I mean, I think those are kind of all things. And, it's interesting talking about that because I know you're in the middle of your school season. Do you have some schools coming up you want to let folks know about?
Yeah, we've got one. Well, this next week, and for the May school, and then we've got the Hall of Fame weekend this weekend in Bryson City, which will be a big fun time. A Friday night, Loggers and Legends in Bryson City at Mountain Lairs. Then we have the banquet up at the Frymont on Saturday, which will be a lot of fun. And yeah, it's that time of year. It's just hectic. It's hectic compared to when Jason last time he was here was between Atlanta and Denver shows in February, and the full moon was going on. It was cold, 33-degree water temp, and just compared to today, it was just like, man, it's like a kid in a candy store. To go down there on the creek right below the house, and everywhere we threw, it's like, bam, bam. It's like, wow, this is a lot better than it was in February. And I'm like, it's just a lot of fun when it's this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, folks, we love questions at the Articulate Fly. And if there's something in particular that you want Mac and I to cover, shoot me an email, DM either of us. Instagram's probably the best place, but anywhere in social media, we'll find it. We'd love to answer your questions. And before I let you go, Mac, you want to let folks know where they can find you so they can sign up for a school, get out on the water with you to fish, all that kind of good stuff.
Sure. Like just Facebook, just Mac Brown. Fly Fish is for the Business Fly Fishing Guide School, also .com, or there's also an account on Instagram and Facebook for that as well. And that has all the dates and everything listed. And that'd be great. I appreciate it, Marvin.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, I'm going to let you get back to drinking my scale mules with Jason. And folks, we've got great weather. We got plenty of water for sure. You owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Mac.
Tight lines, Marvin.